morning, everyone. I'm Dusty Gibson, like he said, and I'm a senior Chapman Scholar. My project is called Where Do All the Biology Majors Go? And so this is kind of the outline for today. I'm going to give you some background information and some enrollment data, and then I'll show you the freshman survey and my results from that, along with the senior survey and those results, and then I'll do some overall conclusions as well. And so this is just some of the enrollment data I was talking about. Now, as you can see, IPFW's overall enrollment has decreased since 2011. But if you look at the College of Arts and Sciences, it actually jumped up for 2016, and I was not expecting that when I pulled this data. And then biology is one of the few departments that has actually increased as well from 15 to 16. And I included the agriculture and forestry up there because they're separate from the biology department, but they take a lot of the same classes that we do. So I thought it was important to add those numbers in, and when you do, you see the decrease in the overall numbers there. And then here are just some other departments that I pulled. The ones in bold, there's 6 of them. They're ones that actually had an increase from 2015 to 2016. And you can't really see a comparison in most of them. They're all kind of spread throughout the different academic areas, but most of them have decreased overall. And so the background for my project is a typical freshman class size is around 120 students in the biology department, and that's a hard number to find because we get a lot of transfer students and we get a lot of students that come in that have enough credits to become a sophomore status. So the freshman numbers are kind of hard to come from because there are so many different ways to interpret it. And then the class that I surveyed was the Biology Resource Seminar, and they had 133 students in it last semester. And a typical graduating students, in the last 6 years, our average has been 31. But this spring and summer, we're going to have a potential of 56 graduates. And that's a really big jump, and we don't really know exactly why that happened either, especially with enrollment the way it is. So where do they go? Do they switch majors? Do they transfer universities? Or do they just drop out? Well, from my first semester here, I can say it's a combination of everything because I had a large group of friends that I studied with, I did homework with, and that second semester, like half of them disappeared. And if it wasn't for social media or having their phone numbers, I wouldn't know how to get a hold of them to find out what happened to them. But most of them did end up switching majors. They decided biology wasn't for them, and some of the classes were not their favorite. And some of them did transfer because they wanted the bigger university experience. And so for the freshman survey, I surveyed the Biology Resource Seminar class, like I said. I surveyed them in November, and it was 133 students, and I got 65 responses. And so the purpose of the survey was to determine the demography of the freshman class, whether they took dual credit classes, if they're transfer students, what their intended majors are, their confidence of choice in major, and the highest level of degree they want to achieve, along with if they plan to stay here for their whole degree program. So when are they leaving and what can we do? So the main goals were to find out if that first year, or specifically that first semester, is critical in the loss of students. And is there something in common between the students that continue on in the program and the ones that don't? And if these prove true, what can be done to change it? Could the creation of a mentoring program help retain these students? And that has been seen in other universities to help, which is why I thought maybe that could be something we do. So here's a picture of the first few questions of the survey for the freshmen, and you guys have a copy of this. And there's the last couple questions. And so now I'm going to go through the survey results, and so you'll see a lot of data, but I'll try to summarize it as best as I can. And so that first graph is just the female-male ratio. The class rank, I was a little bit surprised because I figured they'd be almost all freshmen. But this class can also be taken by transfer students, and we even had a few that were people coming back for a second degree. So that's why there's some of the upper level ones there as well. And we also see a lot of sophomores because a lot of people come in with enough credits now to be considered a sophomore. So that question might not have been worded correctly. We might have wanted to word it as if it's your first semester here. So that could be fixed a little bit by changing the wording. And so this is a typical first semester of a biology major. They take that Biology Resource Seminar. They take a 4-credit biology class with a lab, 4 credits in a chemistry class with a lab, and they could get their math done, or they could do another elective like psychology or communications. And if you look at that schedule, it's kind of heavy for somebody that might not be used to this amount of work. And so maybe it's the curriculum that first semester that's scaring them away a little bit. And so for the freshman results for the dual credit question, 52 of them had taken a dual credit class before. 28 took it through IPFW, 22 through Ivy Tech, 6 took it through another IU or Purdue campus, and 10 other universities were also mentioned. And they don't quite add up to 52, they're actually more than that because multiple students took from multiple universities. And also the students that took more dual credit classes were actually more likely to stay in the program as well. So this is just some more data. Are you a full-time student? I was not surprised to see that most of them were. There were 14 transfer students in that class though, and that's what was a little bit surprising, as I didn't think there'd be that many. And they're also not required to take this class, so they decided on their own that they wanted to take it. And there were also 12 people that already had a college degree or certificate. So those were things that I didn't expect to see out of this data, but that explains why there's more juniors and seniors than what were expected. So these are the intended majors. And so as you can see, pre-med is the biggest piece of the pie chart, and that's because everyone comes in wanting to be a doctor. And then general biology is the next biggest, then it's kind of spread out throughout the other disciplines. And so this was one of the most important questions, was how do you feel towards this statement? You are confident in your choice of major. And so all of the ones that said somewhat disagree or strongly disagree ended up switching majors. So that correlated to what we thought was going to happen. And then 14 of the students had switched majors before, so that means they were also not first semester freshmen. And then are you planning on switching majors? So there's 16 that are planning to switch out of this group, and let's see, I think 9 of those 6, let's see, I'll talk about that later, I guess. No, 9 of the 16 that switched, they took a Chem 115 class. So that's kind of an indication too that that was something that was in common between most of the ones that switched. And then also, out of the ones that switched majors, if they took a Psych 120 class, they were also more likely to be switching to a psych major. So we actually lost 4 students to psychology, 2 to education, 2 to engineering, and 2 to business. And then 1 to radiology, exercise science, math, nursing, marine biology, and English. So it's a very wide group there. I thought there'd be more nursing and more psychology switches than there actually were. So the highest level of education that you expect to complete, this makes sense because if they want to be doctors, they're going to be wanting to do the professional school. I was surprised at how many students wanted to get their master's, because coming into college, I didn't even think about getting my master's in biology. And so the next graph is, are you planning on finishing your degree at IPFW or transferring to another university? And so there are 13 that are planning on transferring. And so we're going to be losing 16 to people that are switching majors, and then another 10 of those to another university. So we are already down to 39 students out of the 65 that were surveyed. And so we're almost down to actually what we graduate in a year. So we've already lost a large section of our freshman class. Okay, then this one was measuring how prepared they were for college. So the blue bars represent how they felt in August before they actually started classes. And then the orange bar represents how they felt in November when they got surveyed. And so for the most part, most of them switched from like unprepared to prepared or something similar to that. And then the last question on the freshman survey was, would you be interested in having an upperclassman as a mentor? And I thought there'd be more that said yes, but we also didn't give them any sort of description about what a mentor could be and what they could learn from them. So these are some of the quotes that I got from the freshmen that I followed up with, the ones that wanted to switch majors. And so these are just a couple of the quotes. I really did enjoy my biology class, but I felt it necessary to switch majors so that I didn't have to move on with more chemistry classes. I guess that Chem 115 lecture really did discourage me that much. The classes were harder than I expected, and I did not enjoy them. I had hands-on work experience in another field and decided that I would like to pursue that field as a major rather than biology. And this was kind of pretty common, was the class scheduling, or it being really hard classes. They weren't prepared for the level of commitment they needed for this major. So now I'm going to talk about the seniors for a little bit. And some of the things we would know is if they were here from the beginning, because we know many of them are transfer students. Did they get previous degrees? How long did it take to complete their degree? And what was the most challenging part of getting their degree? And then also to see if the seniors and freshmen share the same challenges. So there's the questions from the senior survey. And so there's the makeup of male and female in the senior class. And if they were a transfer student, there were 13 transfer students in the group that I surveyed, which is what we pretty much expected to see. Did you switch majors at any point in your academic career? And 17 of them did, but we didn't ask if it was a switch within the department or if it was like a complete major switch. So this is what they're going to be graduating with, and as you see, pre-med has now shrunk quite a bit compared to the freshman graph. And that's because a lot of people that want to be doctors end up switching to like a concentration or general biology and just make sure that they cover all their prereqs that they need. And so we definitely see a more spread out distribution between the different majors. And so how many total years did it take you to complete your degree? Most of them it took 4 years, a couple 5 and a couple 6. But the most challenging aspect of your degree, I think that was the most important question on the survey. And 18 of them said that difficulty of classes and time commitment were the two big reasons. And of the classes listed, 15 seniors listed a chemistry class, and 8 also listed genetics, which is pretty much known as one of the hardest ones to get through in biology. And then financial aspects was also important to some of the people. And then there were some other things that were listed, and most of those were the scheduling conflicts that they can have, because a lot of classes are only offered, they're either offered every other year or they're only offered in the fall, and sometimes they just conflict too much and it's hard to schedule all the classes that you want. And so from the seniors, here's some quotes that are really representative of the whole group. This program is very successful and a helpful program. It prepares students well for real-world work experiences. The school deserves more credit than it receives for how prepared students are for their future career fields. I truly enjoyed my experience and can say that I am confident that I have learned a lot and grown as a person. I had a great experience with the department. However, the amount of hoops I had to jump through in order to get to some required classes to graduate on time was a bit ridiculous. And I saw that a lot. Scheduling conflicts was definitely something that was brought up a lot. All of the teachers in the biology department are amazing. My advisor helped me with multiple opportunities, and I even did research in his lab. And I also want to say that our program actually does really well. I know of at least 7 people that got into med school or dental school, and that's a pretty high number for as small of a campus as we are. And so possible solutions, I mentioned the mentoring program, and even though there wasn't a huge interest in it, I do think it could be beneficial because it's somebody that the students could go to ask questions, things that you might not want to ask your advisor. And I think chemistry is a big obstacle for a lot of students, and I think that they could implement a chemistry placement test, and this would allow them to place into 115 if they're ready, but if not, they could take 111, which would prepare them for 115. And then maybe they wouldn't be so overwhelmed by 115 and decide to drop out or switch majors. And another thing would be offering classes more often. This would help a lot with the scheduling conflicts that we see. I know there are a few classes I couldn't take because I was taking another class at the same time. And so I think that would help out a lot. In the future directions, the biology department can continue administering the surveys. And what they want to do is actually survey the freshmen when they come in for registration, so they can get them fresh out of high school and see what their opinions are. And then also survey them again in their first semester. And so I just want to take a second and thank Betsy and Dr. Columbia, and then also Dr. Gillespie and Dr. Blumenthal, who helped me a lot with this project, and then Kelsey for all her help and support. Is there any questions? Yeah.
Could you go over how many of our students go on to medical or dental school?
I know of 7. I didn't ask all of them, but yes. I know of 7 that have gone. They're accepted and they're extremely excited.
And that's just biology majors?
Yes, that's just our biology majors. Nope. Yep.
You said there was like a pretty widespread as far as where if they were changing majors,
Mm-hmm.
where they went to, and you said you were expecting. I forget the first one, but the second one was psychology,
Mm-hmm.
and
And nursing's the other one.
Yeah, nursing. So I guess I know Abby's a biology, psychology, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of people
So
that
like,
double major.
where's the connection between biology and psychology, I guess? Why did you expect to see that?
Well, because I know of a lot of biology majors. Like, I have a psych minor, so a lot of us get either minors or they'll double major, and it's just because a lot of times it helps with the MCAT for one, and then also it's a fun field to know about, and you don't have to take chemistry to be a psych major. And then the same with nursing is that you only have to take the Chem 104, which is a lot easier than the 115, so that's another thing. Yeah.
Being a biology major, I actually just found out recently that we have a professional advisor in our program, and I think that that would be something that might be helpful for freshmen coming in. I know when I was making my schedule, I didn't know things about like organic and genetics are like really hard to take at the same time.
Yes.
And so things like that, you know, things that they could mention and help students to better plan, because like you said, the way that the classes are offered, it might not be feasible to have professors teach more classes that are already very
Is that Molly's title?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she's actually working with all of the freshmen. So that's who their advisor is. So that helps out a lot too. She helps them out.
I just think that promoting that for at least, I literally just found out like a month ago, which was kind of embarrassing for me to see in the program and not know until my freshman advisor.
Yep.
That could be helpful.
Yeah.
And this goes back to Abby's comments too, I guess, but Molly's doing an incredible job, and I think she is going to help with retention. Did you try to talk to Molly about, you surveyed, the class had 133, you surveyed 65.
Well, 65 responded, yeah.
And well, they responded to it. I can tell you that throughout the semester, from the 133, we probably had maybe 80 that were consistently coming to class. It would be interesting to find out what happened to those other 65 people.
I wonder, I would assume they probably switched majors if they stopped coming to your biology class.
Molly might have the data
Would she
on
have
that
it?
too. I mean, she could look up to see if they're still at IPFW and to see if they did change majors, but it would be interesting to see what happened to those other 65 rather than the ones that you just surveyed or responded to the survey.
Yep.
Did you find that the students that had already completed a degree also thought that like the classes were harder?
They didn't think they were harder. I looked at that too. Most of them just thought that the scheduling was more of an issue than anything else, but they didn't say it was harder. They were more about the time commitment and the scheduling conflicts. Yeah.
That mentorship program that you kind of talked about. So, if freshmen were interested in something like that, like how do you think they would go about finding those mentors who are suitable?
Yeah, different universities have done it different ways. They can either have it through the department. So the department could either, like say the freshman's matched up to a certain advisor, and that advisor could suggest an upperclassman to kind of pair up, or they could do it through a department. And if they, or a club. So if they do it through the club, then it would just be the club members that would voluntarily like want to be the mentor of the freshman. So it would just depend on how they would want to structure it. Yeah.
Do you think the dynamic of the results that you found in the biology department, do you think that's a pretty good picture of what it's like in all the different departments across the school, or is that specific to biology?
I think you see a lot of the similar from the freshmen dropping off. Because I know I got some of the numbers from different departments, but not a ton of them, but it does seem to be about the same amount, like if you do it proportionally. So I did look at that. I just didn't put it in here. Do you have a question? Yeah.
You probably have your hand up first. Go ahead.
We're always trying to actually attract students into our departments, but at the same time, I mean, you're basically getting feedback that chemistry is having an impact on biology. How would you suggest letting students that are coming in know that not only some of the biology classes are going to be problematic, but the amount of chemistry that usually is required, especially for pre-meds, is not something that you're going to get out of if you stay in the program, but you need to be aware that those classes are coming up, and those classes are going to be among the things that might cause them to
Yes.
change their mind about what they're doing.
I know when I registered for classes, they gave us the bingo sheet, and it shows exactly how many chemistry classes you have to take, and physics and all the other courses. But I don't think it's until that first semester when they actually get exposed to the chemistry that they realize that they don't want to do that for another 2 years or another year and a half. So I don't know what else they could do. I think the placement test would help a lot to get them in the right chemistry class, and then maybe they'll stay in it. And I know a lot of bio majors are getting the associate's degree now, and so they're not scared of chemistry, so it's not for everybody. It's just...
But those are the ones that would have at least gone through the freshman season.
Yes. So, I don't know what else they could
Just
do.
to respond to that,
Yeah.
in the 120 class, we do emphasize the difficulty of
Oh,
some
do you?
courses and subjects. That's only been going on for 2 years now, though, so I think we're trying to warn the students that it's not as easy as you might think,
Yes.
and you do have to jump through those hoops, especially chemistry.
Dusty, in your look at other universities, you found some information about mentorship programs. I wondered if you saw anything like a cohort sort of, you know, there's one thing to be mentored by somebody, you know, further ahead than you are, but there's also the strength of working together. And so much of college is about being alone that I wondered if, you know, that was anything that kind of crossed your plate in this.
Not so much for like bio majors, but I know like the business department, they're kind of grouped together and they kind of follow each other on into each class. With biology majors, you don't know who you're going to be in class with because you choose on your own. So I didn't see anything with the biology majors. It was more like business and some of the other like.
Is the scheduling so complex that creating that kind of cohort would be hard in biology?
I think it'd be easier now because they do have concentrations. So those are specific classes that you take. So you're more likely to be with the same people. So that would be similar, I guess. But I think that would be, you'd have to be on a concentration path almost.
I see.
Do you think that you could implement a sort of TA kind of position in some of the more difficult classes? I know that they work with the tutoring through the school, but I think that those could be made better if the student worked more closely with the professor to provide additional supplemental instruction. Do you think that there would be any way that that could improve the strength of those classes?
I think it would, because I know in some of the psychology classes I took, they had a TA, and they always had review sessions, and you could go and work with them. I didn't think about that, but I think that would help too if they had. I know the lab instructors are a source that you could go to if you're in a lab class.
A lot of the times they're the same professor though. Like I've had
Yeah.
in 115 I had Dr. Columbia for class and for lab, so.
Oh, no.
I know how unfortunate.
Yeah, she's still here.
Does the chem department like rotate professors for each class? Because I know the engineering departments do that, and I think it's like it's important. Like if you're in a, for example, 115. From what I've heard, everyone has burger. I don't know. I think it
Or
depends.
Dr. Columbia.
Okay. Yeah. I think it
Third
depends a
half
lot
means
who you
third
get.
half means-
I think they rotate, is it 3 years or 4?
I'll be on my 3rd year, so I'm thinking I'm going to be in there for at least another year beyond that.
Okay, because I know organic's every 3. I don't know about Gen Chem. But yeah, it does rotate, and that does make a difference because, like, I would prefer to have not taken the professor I had for Gen Chem, but with scheduling, that's the only one I could take. And so we definitely warn younger biology majors who to take and who not to take. And that's another thing a mentor could tell you is their experiences with certain professors.
Yeah.
Did you find any correlation between students that change majors over the course of their education and then those same students dropping out further along?
I didn't see anything that would correlate with that data.
The risk of ganging up on chemistry again.
We can take it.
I'm sitting behind Dr. Columbia. I knew this was going to happen, but you survived chemistry,
Yes,
right?
I did.
And faculty, the instructor may have an influence, but why do you think chemistry is so hard for first-year students?
I think it's hard because a lot of people probably only take 1 year in high school or maybe not even 1 year. And so I think that kind of affects it because I took 2 of biology and not just the one of chemistry. And I just didn't feel prepared whatsoever for 115 when I went and took it. So.
And so if they were to take Chem, is it Chem 111 to prepare, that would be for no credit. Do you think that would be a hard sell?
I don't know. If you could express how important it could be to be set up for that 115 class, then I think they would be willing to do it, especially if it means they wouldn't have to retake that 115 class. So that's what I would think out of it. Yeah.
Do you think like a science mall would be like a, you know how like in Kettler there's the math mall? I've been there a couple times. I think that helps a lot. Do you think the idea of like a science mall or whatever would be helpful?
I think it'd be interesting, but it'd be really hard to find enough people to help with those, because like chemistry doesn't have a ton of professors, and so if they were to go down and actually try to help, I think it'd be hard on them with their schedules. And then with all of the biology courses, they're so diverse that I think it would be
one of the ways that's done is by the professors scheduling their office hours in the mall.
Oh, okay.
So it gets coverage that way.
I don't know, has the chemistry department ever thought of something like that?
Consider that, but that is a possible thing.
Yeah, maybe you could like hire upper level chem students maybe at their tutors. I don't know.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I don't know. That could help. Yeah.
Out of the people who either, dropped out, left the program or whatever, do you think that there is anything that you could do to identify them coming out of high school, like looking at their test scores?
Oh, that was another
that
thing.
type of thing?
The ACT and SAT score was a question on the survey, but a lot of them couldn't remember what they were.
Okay.
So if we survey them during registration, it'd be more fresh in their mind, I would think. And so we could try to track by that. But yeah, we were hoping to find a correlation between maybe the higher test scores would stay in the program, but they didn't answer the question or didn't know it, so we couldn't do that.
Would you consider like asking about like your range? So, I mean, when I was taking the SATs, it was like up to 700 per category, I think, but they keep changing the scoring. So you could say like, were you 600 to 700? Because I know that I personally was somewhere in there. I'm pretty sure all of us had to be, but like people would probably be more likely to feel comfortable talking about a range rather than a specific number. Don't you think?
Yeah. I didn't think about that. That would have been something, but I still don't know if they would have remembered exactly some of them. Yeah. Especially if they had a big break, like the people that came back and got a second degree, they probably would have no idea what their scores were. So some of them honestly didn't know, and some just probably forgot over the summer. Yeah.
What was the relevance of the questions like what the previous majors and everything? How did those factor into the conclusions you drew?
It was just to see where they came from, to see if they switched from like a science field to another science field, or if it was something like completely unrelated to a biology major. So that's what we were kind of looking at, just to see. There wasn't really any correlations there, but I was interested to see where they were coming from.
Okay.
Is that it? Okay.